April 1945. A captured Japanese Zero sat on an Allied airfield, its sleek lines a stark contrast to the rugged American fighters. For Lieutenant Commander Jamey Miller, a seasoned U.S. Navy pilot, the next 90 minutes would redefine everything he thought he knew about aerial combat. The fate of countless future engagements and the lives of his fellow airmen hinged on his ability to unlock the secrets of the enemy's most feared aircraft. This was not just a test flight, it was a desperate race against time to understand the very essence of their adversary. To understand how it happened, we must go back to the early days of the Pacific War, a time when the Japanese Mitsubishi A6M-0 fighter emerged as a dominant force in the skies. From its first appearance, the Zero was a revelation, an aircraft that seemed to defy the known limits of aerial combat. Its exceptional range, allowing it to operate far from its bases, combined with an almost unbelievable maneuverability, gave it a significant edge over early Allied fighters. American pilots, flying robust but heavier aircraft like the F-4F Wildcat, found themselves at a severe disadvantage in close-quarters dogfights. The Zero could turn tighter, climb with surprising agility, and seemed to dance around its opponents with effortless grace, often leaving Allied pilots bewildered and outmaneuvered. This initial superiority led to heavy losses for the Allied air forces, fostering a sense of dread and mystery around the Japanese fighter. Its lightweight construction, achieved by sacrificing armor protection and self-sealing fuel tanks, was the critical design choice that granted it such agility. But this crucial detail remained largely unknown to the pilots who faced it. The early encounters were brutal lessons in humility, forcing American strategists and pilots to rethink their entire approach to air combat in the Pacific theater. The Zero was not merely an aircraft, it was a symbol of Japanese aerial prowess, a formidable challenge that demanded a profound understanding to overcome. By April 1945, the tide of the war in the Pacific had turned dramatically. American industrial might had produced a new generation of powerful and heavily armed fighters, such as the F-6F Hellcat and the F-4U Corsair. These aircraft could outclimb, outdive, and outgun the aging Zero, shifting the balance of power in the skies. Yet despite its technological obsolescence, the Zero remained a formidable opponent in the hands of a skilled and determined pilot, especially in the chaotic close-range melees that still characterized many engagements. Its legendary maneuverability continued to surprise and claim American lives, particularly when Allied pilots, perhaps overconfident in their newer machines, strayed from established boom and zoom tactics and allowed themselves to be drawn into turning fights. The psychological impact of the Zero's early dominance lingered, and a comprehensive first-hand understanding of its capabilities was still desperately needed. The challenge was no longer just to defeat the Zero, but to truly comprehend its strengths and weaknesses, to strip away the mystique and replace it with hard tactical knowledge. This was particularly crucial as the war moved closer to the Japanese home islands, where fanatical resistance and desperate, often suicidal tactics were becoming the norm. The need for every possible advantage, every piece of intelligence, was paramount to minimize further casualties and accelerate victory. It was in this critical juncture that a rare and invaluable opportunity arose. A fully intact Zero captured on a remote island was made available for detailed analysis and, crucially, for a test flight by an American pilot. This was the chance to finally get inside the mind of the enemy's machine, to truly understand its capabilities from the inside out. Lieutenant Commander Jamey Miller was precisely the man for such a task. A 32-year-old naval aviator from the heartland of Kansas, Miller was known throughout the fleet for his sharp analytical mind as much as for his exceptional flying skills. He possessed a rare and invaluable combination of aggressive combat instinct and a methodical, almost academic approach to understanding aircraft performance. His peers respected his calm demeanor under the most intense pressure and his uncanny ability to dissect complex aerial maneuvers, often breaking them down into their fundamental components. Miller had already completed 2 grueling combat tours in the Pacific, flying F-6F Hellcats from the decks of aircraft carriers, accumulating hundreds of hours in the unforgiving skies. He had faced Zeros countless times, experiencing firsthand their terrifying agility and the deep frustration of trying to pin one down in a dogfight. He had seen friends fall to their guns, and he had learned, through bitter experience and painful observation, the critical importance of avoiding the classic turning fight at all costs. His logbook was filled not just with mission reports, but with meticulous entries detailing encounters, observations, and nascent theories about how to effectively counter the nimble Japanese fighter. He understood the Zero not just as an enemy aircraft, but as a complex puzzle that desperately needed solving, a riddle whose answer could directly save the lives of his fellow airmen. His personal drive to understand the Zero was fueled by a deep sense of responsibility to his squadron and a burning desire to ensure no more American pilots fell victim to its deceptive grace. His reputation for both courage and intellect made him the undeniable choice for this unprecedented mission. Miller's journey to becoming a top naval aviator began far from the war-torn skies of the Pacific in the quiet, expansive plains of Kansas. Growing up, he developed an early and profound fascination with flight, spending countless hours watching biplanes dust crops and dreaming of the day he would take to the skies himself. The vast, open spaces of his home instilled in him a natural understanding of distance, speed, and perspective, qualities that would later serve him well in the three-dimensional arena of aerial combat. He joined the Navy in 1937, drawn by the promise of adventure, the rigorous discipline, and the cutting-edge technology of carrier aviation. His training was exceptionally rigorous, honing his natural aptitude for spatial reasoning and mechanical understanding. He excelled in aerobatics, demonstrating an innate feel for an aircraft's limits and how to push them safely and effectively. However, nothing in his pre-war training, no textbook or simulation, could have truly prepared him for the shock and reality of encountering the Zero in combat. His first combat tour, beginning shortly after the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, was a brutal baptism by fire. He vividly remembered his first dogfight, a chaotic ballet of tracers, desperate maneuvers, and the terrifying realization that a Zero seemed to materialize out of nowhere, its pilot executing turns that defied all logic and physics he had been taught. He narrowly escaped that encounter, his Wildcat riddled with holes, but the experience left an indelible mark on his psyche. He realized then that traditional Western air combat doctrine, focused primarily on speed and diving attacks, was insufficient and often suicidal against this new, incredibly agile adversary. The Zero demanded a completely different approach, a new way of thinking about air-to-air combat. Throughout his subsequent combat experiences, Miller transformed into an astute and relentless observer of the Zero's behavior and tactics. He meticulously noted how Japanese pilots would often try to draw American pilots into turning fights, leveraging their superior rate of turn and tighter radius. He saw their pilots execute tight, almost impossible loops and rolls, seemingly defying gravity and the laws of aerodynamics. But he also began to identify crucial patterns and vulnerabilities: the Zero's distinct lack of power for high-speed dives, its tendency to break up under extreme G-forces due to its lightweight construction, and the telltale smoke trails of its unprotected fuel tanks when hit by even a single round. He meticulously debriefed every engagement, comparing notes with other pilots, trying to piece together a comprehensive and accurate picture of the enemy's capabilities. He studied captured Japanese manuals, albeit translated and often incomplete, searching for clues about their design philosophy, pilot training, and tactical doctrine. Yet, all this was theoretical, second-hand knowledge, gleaned from observation and reports. What he truly craved was direct, visceral understanding, to feel the aircraft, to understand its responses, to truly grasp its soul and its limitations. He knew with an unwavering conviction that only by experiencing the Zero from the inside, by pushing its limits himself, could he truly unlock the tactical keys to its defeat. This deep-seated conviction, born from countless hours in the cockpit and the grim reality of combat, made him the ideal candidate for the unprecedented opportunity that now lay before him, an opportunity to turn theory into undeniable fact. The opportunity arrived in the form of a captured A6M50, recovered almost perfectly intact, from a remote airstrip on a recently secured island in the Pacific. It was a prize of immense intelligence value, a rare chance to dissect the enemy's most iconic and feared weapon. For years, American pilots had fought the Zero, developing counter-tactics through a costly process of trial and error, often at great personal sacrifice. Now Miller was presented with a unique and critical dilemma. He had been granted precisely 90 minutes to conduct a comprehensive flight evaluation of this captured Zero. This was no leisurely test flight. It was a high-stakes mission to extract critical performance data, and more importantly, to understand the Zero's legendary maneuverability from the pilot's perspective. The rules for the flight were strict and carefully outlined. No aggressive combat maneuvers that might risk damaging the invaluable aircraft, but enough freedom to push its limits and uncover its deepest secrets. He was specifically instructed to focus on its turning radius, climb rate, stall characteristics and overall handling, paying particular attention to the subtle nuances that made it so deadly in a dogfight. The pressure on Miller was immense. 90 minutes was a fleeting window of opportunity to gather intelligence that could potentially save hundreds of lives and influence the outcome of future battles. He knew that every input, every observation, every sensation he experienced would be meticulously scrutinized and analyzed by a team of engineers and tacticians, transforming his personal experience into collective, actionable knowledge for the entire fleet. As Miller climbed into the Zero's cockpit, the unfamiliar controls and Japanese instrumentation felt alien and somewhat intimidating beneath his gloved hands. The moment of decision was palpable, heavy with historical significance. He had studied diagrams, read countless intelligence reports, but now he was truly inside the enemy's machine, a direct participant in its operation. He immediately felt the surprising lightness of the airframe, a stark and immediate contrast to the robust, almost tank-like construction of his familiar Hellcat. The engine coughed to life, settling into a familiar roar, yet subtly different in its pitch and vibration. He taxied the aircraft carefully to the runway, the ground crew watching with a mixture of awe, apprehension, and intense curiosity. This was it. His mind raced, recalling every dogfight, every evasive maneuver he had witnessed from a Zero, every lesson learned in the crucible of combat. He knew, intellectually, that its strengths lay in its incredibly low wing loading and large wing area, granting it exceptional lift and turn performance, especially at lower speeds. He also knew its inherent weaknesses, a distinct lack of power for high-speed dives, and a tragically fragile airframe that offered little protection to the pilot or vital systems. His task was to quantify these feelings, to translate the abstract observations into concrete data points that could be taught to every American pilot in the Pacific. He took a deep, steadying breath, the sharp smell of aviation fuel filling the cockpit, and pushed the throttle forward, committing himself fully to the 90-minute quest for understanding. The takeoff was surprisingly smooth and remarkably quick, the Zero leaping into the air with an eagerness that belied its age and the weight of its historical significance. Miller immediately began a series of gentle turns, feeling the aircraft respond with an almost intuitive grace and responsiveness. He executed a slow, sustained turn, then progressively tightened it, marveling at the incredibly small radius the Zero could achieve. This was the legendary maneuverability that had frustrated and defeated so many American pilots in the early days of the war. He noted the exceptionally light control forces, the immediate and precise response to even the slightest stick input. He then tried a series of rolls, finding them crisp, rapid, and easily initiated. The Zero was indeed a dancer, light on its feet, capable of changing direction with astonishing speed and agility. He pushed it into a climb, observing its initial impressive ascent, but also noting the gradual fall-off in performance at higher altitudes compared to the more powerful Hellcat. He carefully tested its stall characteristics, finding it remarkably docile and predictable, recovering easily with minimal altitude loss. The lack of armor and self-sealing fuel tanks, which he knew intellectually from intelligence reports, now felt viscerally present, creating a profound sense of vulnerability within the cockpit. The expansive canopy offered an unparalleled view, but also emphasized the pilot's exposed position. He understood with a new clarity that the Zero's pilot was making a dangerous but often effective trade-off, sacrificing protection for unparalleled agility. He performed a series of mock-evasive maneuvers, imagining a hellcat on his tail, and found himself able to weave and turn with an ease that would have been utterly impossible in any American fighter. He realized that the Zero's maneuverability wasn't just about turning. It was about a holistic approach to energy management, about maintaining speed through tight turns, and about exploiting every ounce of its lightweight design. The 90 minutes flew by with astonishing speed, each second a profound revelation. He landed the Zero with a newfound respect for its design and a profound, intimate understanding of its pilot's perspective. The immediate result was a clear, concise, and undeniable understanding. The Zero was a pure dogfighter, an absolute master of the turning engagement, but inherently fragile and vulnerable when forced to disengage or when attacked from a position of energy advantage, particularly from above and at high speed. The knowledge gained from Miller's 90-minute flight and the subsequent detailed analyses of other captured Zeros had an immediate and profoundly transformative repercussion across the entire Pacific theater. His observations, combined with those of other test pilots and intelligence officers, were rapidly disseminated through updated training manuals, critical tactical briefings, and comprehensive pilot debriefs. The core lesson was simple but absolutely critical. Never, under any circumstances, engage a Zero in a turning fight. Instead, American pilots were rigorously taught to leverage the superior speed, formidable diving capability, and robust structural integrity of their own aircraft. Tactics like the boom and zoom became paramount, a fundamental principle of engagement where American fighters would dive on Zeros from a position of altitude and speed advantage, deliver a devastating burst of fire, and then use their superior speed to climb away, avoiding any attempt by the Zero to engage in a close-in, protracted dogfight. The Thatch Weave, a defensive maneuver developed earlier by Commander John Thack, gained renewed emphasis and widespread adoption, allowing American sections to protect each other from agile Zero attacks by crossing paths and presenting overlapping fields of fire. Pilots learned to ruthlessly exploit the Zero's inherent fragility, specifically aiming for its unarmored cockpit and unprotected fuel tanks. This fundamental shift in understanding and tactics completely transformed the air war. No longer was the Zero an invincible phantom, it was now a known quantity, its strengths understood, and its weaknesses systematically exploited. The psychological advantage the Zero once held began to rapidly erode, replaced by a confident, aggressive, and highly effective American approach to air combat. The historical impact of this newfound understanding was immense and far-reaching. It contributed significantly to the establishment of undeniable American air superiority in the later, crucial stages of the Pacific War. While the Zero remained a threat, especially in the hands of exceptionally experienced and determined pilots, its overall effectiveness diminished dramatically as American tactics adapted and evolved. The detailed knowledge gained from these captured aircraft allowed Allied forces to accurately anticipate Japanese aerial strategies and counter them with devastating effectiveness. It underscored the critical and often overlooked importance of intelligence gathering and the absolute necessity of adapting rapidly to the enemy's capabilities. The Zero, once the terrifying symbol of Japanese air power, became a testament to the ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless learning curve of Allied forces. Its legacy, therefore, is not just one of early dominance and initial shock, but also of how a thorough, first-hand understanding of an adversary's technology and doctrine can decisively turn the tide of conflict. The lessons learned from those critical 90 minutes helped save countless American lives, reduced the duration of the brutal air campaign, and ultimately accelerated the end of the war in the Pacific. This intelligence proved to be as potent a weapon as any bomb or bullet. After the war, James Miller continued his distinguished career in the United States Navy, contributing significantly to the development of early jet aircraft and advanced aerial combat techniques. He often spoke of his 90 minutes in the Zero, not as a moment of personal glory or a thrilling anecdote, but as a pivotal and deeply educational experience that highlighted the constant need for adaptation, continuous learning, and profound understanding in the ever-evolving landscape of warfare. He retired from active service as a highly decorated Rear Admiral, his contributions to naval aviation enduring and influencing generations of pilots long after the last Zero had been relegated to history books and museums. His story and the collective experience of American pilots who faced the Zero became a powerful and enduring reminder that victory often hinges not just on superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but on superior knowledge, the willingness to learn from every encounter, and the courage to challenge preconceived notions about the enemy. This is the true legacy of those critical 90 minutes in April 1945. It is the undeniable proof that even against a seemingly insurmountable adversary, even when facing a legend of the skies that once inspired fear, a few determined individuals, armed with intellect and courage, can unlock the secrets to victory. One flight at a time, one observation at a time, one crucial piece of intelligence at a time. And in doing so, they prove that the human intellect and spirit, when tempered by suffering and ignited by the righteous pursuit of understanding, is stronger than any technological advantage, stronger than any mystique, and ultimately, stronger than any war machine. The American pilots did not just defeat the Zero, they understood it, they dissected its essence, and they taught others how to counter it. And sometimes, just sometimes, that profound understanding is enough to change the world.